Hello, I'm Patrice Berry, and today I'm joined by Dan Herbert. Dan, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So we're just here to ask a couple questions about the Bethel AME Church Restoration Project Fund, which started recently at NVCF. Before I ask a little bit about the purpose of the fund, can you tell me a little bit about the significance of the church in our community?
So the current facility that Bethel AME is in is the oldest church building in the history of Chico. It was built in, I've heard, the building says 1867 on it. I had another historian say 1863, but we won't split hairs. It was in the 1860s, right around the gold rush. And so it was the first building in Chico. It used to be located over on Main Street by where Jack's Restaurant is today.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, and I'm not sure, I want to say the early 1900s, it was moved over to 6th and Flume.
Mm-hmm.
It remained there till 1957, at which time it was moved to its current site at the corner of Linden and 9th Street. And we believe that because of some older pictures we've seen, that when it was moved from where Trinity Methodist Church is today to the current location, that the steeple was probably no longer structurally sound, so they removed that before they moved the building. And so at that point, the original bell from that church was left at 6th and Flume in front of Trinity Methodist Church. And there's some legend that has it, and we're still trying to determine if this is accurate, if it's still going to be a successful opportunity. But there's some legend that says that when it's various points along the way that the Bethel AME was told that if they ever refurbished and restructured their building, that the original bell would be returned to the original building. We're still trying to work that through, but we hope that that's the case and that it can truly be a complete building, and the restoration will make it look like it did in the late 1800s.
Mm-hmm. And that is the primary purpose of the fund. Can you tell me a little bit about how the leadership is going about trying to achieve these goals of the restoration? And
Well, I think it all started just a couple of weeks ago with all the racial unrest we're having in our nation, and people in Chico, independent of each other, quite ironically, we're looking for ways to not just talk about it, not just to say, oh, I'm so frustrated, oh, I'm so disgusted, but to say, what could we do that could be both symbolic, I would say symbolic, but also tangible,
mm-hmm.
in a way that we could communicate that the citizens of Chico are bigger than this, and we are a better people than this. And our African-American brothers and sisters are an important part of our community, and the fact that they reside in a church building that hasn't very successfully made it through 3 moves, even though it's the oldest church building in Chico, it doesn't dignify both the historical significance or the significance that it represents to the congregation of Bethel AME.
Mm-hmm.
Several of us, again, independent, thought, wouldn't it be meaningful to approach the church and ask them if I need to backstep. It's interesting. When we met the pastor, we found out that she had had the dream when she arrived in Chico 5 years ago of having that building fully restored. Mm-hmm. And that was pretty cool, because when we reached out, it wasn't like we wanted to do something to patronize someone and say, here's what would make us feel better.
Right.
We were approaching them and just asking them how we could minister to them, how we could bless them. And we had some ideas, and it was one of those aha moments that our ideas and her dream just gelled perfectly. And so we said, wow, there's something bigger than all of us here. We need to continue down this path. So down the path we've proceeded for the last week and a half now, and we're hoping for grand things. You know, there are some people out in our community that we believe we could approach and say, hey, why don't you just do this for us and do this for the church, and you've got plenty of money or whatever. But as we were in the early stages of discussion, though it was going to make the work a lot more difficult or challenging or long lasting, we said, for us, this to really be a statement from the Chico community,
Mm-hmm.
so much more significant if 1,000 people gave $100 and 100 people gave $1,000. And not that everybody has to give $100, but just that idea that if there was 1,000 or 1,500 members of our community that were giving to this project, at the end of the day, when the building is restored and we can all drive by it, so many more people will get the joy of knowing what they did and in the honor that they were doing it. And it will help us reflect on the tragic couple of weeks, and not just couple of weeks, but the tragic couple of 100 years that we have dealt with racism in our society, and saying, that beautiful church there represents something a lot more than just a new steeple and a fresh coat of paint. And so that to have hundreds or thousands of people to be able to be a part of that will, we believe, make that a more significant gesture.
Yes. And the timeliness is really significant.
And had it not been the timeliness, I don't think this would have ever happened, because it's very intentional that we wanted to be a small portion of our answer to the African American community that says this is not something that we're just going to turn our back on. This is something that we want to do that has meaning, that has sacrifice, that will be something we can reflect on 50 years from now, just like we do today as we're doing the project. So I think timing is everything, and maybe this wouldn't have gotten off its feet in a crazy sort of way,
Right.
Push to the wall and say, we need to step up and do something significant.
Yes. Thank you so much. The solidarity that I have seen in Chico during this time is really telling of this project and how it's going to move forward, hopefully. So I have the best wishes for Bethel AME and the restoration and its significance in the community. So I really appreciate you talking with me today.
You're welcome. My pleasure.